In the old house where I grew up, there was a doll placed on a wooden shelf against the wall. It was not an expensive toy, nor did it have any mechanism to produce sound. It was simply an old cloth doll with a plain face and black stitched eyes that always stared forward. During the day, it looked harmless, so ordinary that one could easily forget it was even there. But at night, everything changed. It began on a rainy night, when the entire house was asleep. I woke to a faint sound, something like a muffled sob coming from somewhere inside my room. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but the sound returned, soft and rhythmic, like the crying of a child trying not to wake anyone. I sat up and listened carefully, slowly realizing that the sound was coming from the corner of the room where the doll was. I turned on the light. The sound stopped instantly. The doll lay motionless on the shelf, its expression unchanged. I tried to convince myself it was just the rain or wind slipping through a crack in the window, but when I turned the light off and lay back down, only a few minutes passed before the crying returned, this time clearer, closer, as if it were right beside my ear. I did not dare look toward the shelf. I pulled the blanket over my head, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it might give me away. The crying lasted only a few seconds before fading into silence. That silence was even more terrifying, because I could not tell whether it had ended or was simply waiting. The next morning, I told my mother what had happened. She stared at the doll for a long moment before saying that I must have had a nightmare. She explained that the doll was old, bought years ago from a second-hand market, and that there was nothing unusual about it. Still, I noticed that she placed the doll inside the wardrobe instead of returning it to the shelf. I believe that was the end of it until the following night. After everyone had gone to sleep, I heard a faint creak from the wardrobe, as if someone had brushed against the wooden door. Then the crying began again, this time muffled, trapped within a confined space. It no longer sounded like suppressed sobbing, but like a child calling out softly, hopelessly. I jumped out of bed and ran to my parents' room. When I told them what I heard, my father decided to check the wardrobe. The doll lay inside, perfectly still, but something made him hesitate. The doll's black stitched eyes looked damp, slightly darker than before, as if something had passed over them. No one spoke. My father closed the wardrobe slowly, with unusual care. In the nights that followed, the crying did not occur regularly. Sometimes it came at midnight, sometimes just before dawn. At times it was only a brief whimper, other times it lasted long enough to drain the listener completely. What was strange was that whenever someone turned on a light or spoke loudly, the sound would stop immediately. Gradually, I began to doubt myself. Perhaps I was overly sensitive. Perhaps my mind was inventing the sound. But one evening, while my entire family sat together in the living room with the lights on, we all heard the crying come from the hallway. For the first time, I was not the only one who heard it. No one spoke for several seconds. My mother stood up and walked straight to the wardrobe. As soon as she opened it, the crying stopped. Inside was nothing but the doll, lying exactly as before, its face as expressionless as ever. From that moment on, no one dismissed it as imagination again. My grandmother was the only one who spoke afterward. She said that some objects are more than just objects. Some carry memories, emotions, sometimes even pain from those who once owned them. The doll, she suggested, might have belonged to a child and witnessed something that was never spoken aloud. Not long after that, the doll was removed from the house. No one threw it away, and no one kept it. It was placed somewhere far from us, and we never spoke of it again. The house grew quiet. I slept more deeply, no longer waking to unfamiliar sounds. Yet even now, on nights when the world becomes too silent, I remember that crying, not with fear, but with a feeling I cannot fully name, as though someone once tried to say something important, and no one was there to listen. Perhaps the doll was never haunted. Perhaps it was only a catalyst for human fear. But perhaps there are sounds in this world that were never meant to be heard, and when they are, the most frightening question is not where they come from, but why they chose you to listen.